Joe Manchin will not be satisfied until we are all simultaneously on fire. And the prospect that the federal government would do literally anything to even slow down, let alone reverse climate change, is unacceptable to him. And so he has, according to Axios, closed the door on a climate, energy, and tax package, but remains open to a much smaller bill that focuses on deficit reduction, prescription drug reform, and funding for healthcare subsidies, according to people familiar with the matter. Look, them doing prescription drug reform or healthcare subsidies seem great, and thus there is no chance whatsoever that he will actually support those things. How many times can the football be put out in front of you and you go to kick it before you realize that he's gonna pull it back? The important point is that he doesn't want anything to be done on climate. He wants to focus on deficit reduction. The issue I have with that is that deficits aren't why we won't be able to grow food in the near future. They're not the reason all of California is simultaneously on fire right now. They're not, the deficits aren't causing record-breaking heat waves in China and Japan right now. Florida is not going to sink below the ocean because of deficits. The deficit might be an issue and we can and should deal with it. But a little bit of perspective, prioritizing your issues would be nice, River. But what do you think?
I mean, here's the thing, John, about the deficit versus climate change. Climate change is a real thing that's happening that you can actually experience with your actual body, your eyes, your ears, you know? The deficit is made up. And therefore, even the amount that we need to deal with it is a made up thing. It's imaginary and we all just agree about that it exists. As opposed to climate change, which regardless of whether we agree it exists or not, exists and is gonna keep happening unless we do something about it. And Joe Manchin is just the worst CEO, just the worst board member in the government, you know? And he wants to do to West Virginia what he did to West Virginia to the rest of the country. And as somebody who has family in West Virginia and is partially from there, I don't wish that on anyone.
Yeah.
Because
no,
it's
absolutely ridiculous.
All those things more than, maybe not more because I don't believe in hierarchies, but just as much as any other state. The amount of poverty in West Virginia, the amount of like ecological poverty, there's something like 90% of West Virginia is owned by people who do not live in West Virginia. 90%, something like that. That is astonishing, you know, when you really consider it.
It is, and it would be great if the people of West Virginia had a representative who ever once thought about them or cared about what
or cared about them at all, and they do not, and it is ultimately not their fault either, because it is just a pure coal takeover of that state. And you know, I would argue that Joe Manchin is 90% owned by not West Virginia as well.
That is true. We're actually going to get into that. Yeah, so bear in mind, he's now saying no. This one guy, this coal mine owner, gets to decide if the federal government deals with climate change, despite the fact that Democrats have already agreed to surrender their most prized spending proposals, from offering paid family and medical leave to providing childcare, free pre-kindergarten, and tax benefits to low-income Americans. So all of those amazing things that we don't have, that the rest of the rational world has, they've already set fire to those because Manchin finds them unacceptable. The idea that you would give birth and then not get back to your goddamn job within 48 hours is unacceptable to him, so the Democrats sacrificed it. You'll get back into the mines, you peasant. They already did that. And even that wasn't enough. This one guy who represents one small, let's admit it, state, gets to decide that no matter how many free gifts they shower onto him, no matter how many things that would help, no matter how many millions of Americans they set fire to, he still gets to kill the entire thing. And the worst he'll suffer for it is a maybe mildly critical article in the New York Times. Joe Biden is gonna be very nice to him, and Chuck Schumer is gonna be very nice to him, and there'll be no pressure put on him. They'll support him the next time he goes up for re-election, and he gets to do that. He gets to kill all of this. He gets to, let's keep it real, he gets to kill people, because when you do not regulate these industries, when you allow climate change to barrel towards us unhindered in any way, He is not gonna suffer. He's gonna be in his Maserati or on his houseboat. Many of you will suffer and die. Your farms will no longer be able to produce crops. You will lose your home. That's what's gonna happen to you. And he just gets to do that. And he gets to be ever wealthier along the way. It is a sick, corrupt system. And it is awful that we have barely any people in elected office who will even point out what it is that he's doing, let alone stop him.
I agree, John. All that man cares about is profit, and he has somehow managed to twist that into the sort of old guard. I'm in opposition because that's what we do. And he's one of the good old boys, which that applies to women as well sometimes in the Senate. And yeah, I mean, just that image of him shouting down from his yacht, which trying to like round it down to houseboat as though he's like some hillbilly or something. Like, come on, man, we all know you're not a hillbilly. You absolutely are not a hillbilly driving a Maserati around. And when was the last time you set foot in West Virginia? That I would like to know. In the 100%. Real West Virginia, not like your condo or whatever that you own there.
Exactly. By the way, reminder. He has received more money from the fossil fuel industry in the past year than anyone else in Congress, almost twice as much as any Republican, $730,000, which is very nice for him. And why wouldn't they give him all of that money? Just by him, none of the Republicans are ever gonna do anything to stop America from just being set on fire by climate change. So just by him, and they did it. They did it incredibly cheaply. $730,000 would be a lot of money to me. It might be a lot of money to you. To him, he's already a millionaire. He's gonna raise millions and millions. It's barely even an investment. He is bought so easily, but much more importantly, the donations are bad. Is that why he's doing this? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the fact that he has earned $5.2 million from his own coal company is bigger. Like, those donations are helpful, but that's not his money at the end of the day. No, he wants his money. And the fact that the bill might hinder his ability to despoil our environment, that's when it gets personal to him. And the fact that that is not every headline today, that he's killing the climate bill and he owns a goddamn coal mine, that is beyond idiocracy levels of corruption.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.